This video is sponsored by the Patriot Gold Group. President Trump took the oath of office as the Western world was fighting the global war on terror, primarily in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. He saw the tensions growing in Asia. He also saw major issues among the population following the years of division sown by the Obama administration, never-ending wars, as well as bad deals made with foreign nations. He was about to change all that. What did Trump do to alter U.S. foreign policy? How did he handle the deep state operations against him? How did he create the lowest unemployment in our history and give us the greatest economy? How did he put the world's bad actors in check? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, military veteran, historian, author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. One of Trump's first actions was to open public lands and allow permits for oil and natural gas drilling, eventually placing the U.S. on the board as being energy independent and then exporting energy. But the media was waiting. The media attacked Trump's comments on the 2017 rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, where he stated that there were very fine people on both sides, and these were edited out of context, and the news feeds never completely aired his entire statement. They always left out that he also said this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, and that racism would not be tolerated. They still like using selected sound bites. On the home front, Trump dismissed FBI Director James Comey on May 9, 2017, claiming accurately that Comey's conduct in the investigation of Hillary Clinton's criminal activity was a partisan cover-up. Trump was concerned with Comey's actions into the Russia collusion case and the ongoing Trump-Russia investigations. It has been proven that Trump was right. Comey and his FBI had been in collusion themselves with Hillary Clinton, the Democrat Party, and the Democrat members of Congress and the left-wing media. Comey also lied to the FISA court with 4 fraudulent warrants for surveillance and wiretaps that spanned Trump's campaign well into his presidency without any legal or material foundation. This included the investigation that Comey launched against General Michael Flynn, charges that were fraudulent on their face and later proven to be so, and if they had any merit, then should have been applied to Hunter Biden as well. President Trump reacted from the Oval Office just minutes after the DOJ filing surfaced. He was an innocent man. Now, in my book, he's an even greater warrior, Trump said, while criticizing Obama administration officials. They're human scum. It's treason. Flynn was exonerated. Trump began immediately addressing many foreign policy issues that had either been ignored or badly handled by 2 terms of Barack Obama. He also handled the major world players differently than his predecessor. Trump took liberal criticism after he met with Putin at the Helsinki summit in July 2018 for accepting Putin's denial of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, rather than accepting the findings of U.S. intelligence agencies. Come to learn, the agencies lied and Putin was right. Ironically, Trump was vilified by the media when he failed to accept the alleged Russian bounties offered to Taliban fighters for attacking American soldiers in Afghanistan, with Putin saying both that he doubted the intelligence and that he was not briefed on it. Later, we learned that it was a mainstream media lie. There was no Russian bounty.
You have to realize that you are the bad guy in someone's story. Like, they're never going to sit there and tell somebody else all the bad things they did.
Before and during his presidency, Trump repeatedly accused China of taking unfair advantage of the U.S. for decades. As president, Trump sanctioned Huawei for its alleged ties to Iran and significantly increased visa restrictions on Chinese students and scholars due to the widespread intellectual and technology theft, and he classified China as a currency manipulator. The woke millionaires and billionaires who made a lot of money from China's use of slave labor came after him, as well as the Democrat and Rhino politicians, whose investment portfolios bristled with Chinese investments, who never even acknowledged the practice of slavery. Trump also withdrew the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations and imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports that competed with U.S. production, and he launched a trade war with China on goods imported into the U.S. by sharply increasing tariffs on 818 categories of goods worth $50 billion. While Trump said that import tariffs were paid by China into the U.S. Treasury, they were actually paid in part by American companies that imported goods from China. Although he pledged during the campaign to significantly reduce the U.S.'s large trade deficits, the trade deficit in July 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic was the largest monthly deficit since July 2008. Following a 2017 to 2018 renegotiation, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA, became effective in July 2020 as the successor to NAFTA. He also put into effect the corporate and personal tax breaks that benefited every American, as companies then had greater financial ability to expand and hire workers, as well as companies that began returning to the U.S. from overseas to take advantage of the incentives. This created the lowest unemployment figures in American history, and interest rates fell to below 3% sustained. In 2017, when North Korea's nuclear weapons were increasingly seen as a serious threat, Trump warned that North Korean aggression would be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. But Kim Jong-un stopped the missile tests. After this period of tension, Trump and Kim exchanged at least 27 letters in which the two men described a warm personal friendship. Trump met with Kim 3 times, in Singapore in 2018, and in Hanoi in 2019, and in the Korean Demilitarized Zone in 2019. Trump was the first sitting U.S. president to meet a North Korean leader or to visit North Korea and lifted some U.S. sanctions against that country in the deal that halted the missile tests. Trump met with Kim Jong-un to also discuss reducing his nuclear arsenal, but despite Trump's wishes, there was not a denuclearization agreement, and talks in October 2019 on that subject broke down after just 1 day. Although North Korea conducted no nuclear tests from 2017 until the Biden administration. Trump also ignored the progressive Marxist hypocrites when, after examining the 2001 9/11 terrorist attack and the 2015 San Bernardino, California attack by 2 Muslims who killed their non-Muslim friends, as well as other events carried out by Muslim immigrants, Trump proposed to ban Muslim foreigners from entering the United States until stronger vetting systems could be implemented. He later reframed the proposed ban to apply to countries with a proven history of terrorism. The left-wing media went ballistic. On January 27, 2017, Trump signed Executive Order 13769, which suspended admission of refugees for 120 days and denied entry to citizens of Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen for 90 days, citing security reasons. The order took effect immediately and without warning, causing confusion and chaos at airports. Protests against the ban began at airports the next day. Legal challenges to the order resulted in nationwide preliminary injunctions. A March 6 revised order, which excluded Iraq and gave other exemptions, again was blocked by federal liberal judges in 3 states. However, in a vindication of the order in June 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that the ban could be enforced upon visitors from the target nations who lack a, quote, credible claim of a bona fide relationship with a person or entity in the United States, end quote. Presidential Proclamation 9645 replaced the temporary order on September 24, 2017, which restricted travel from the originally targeted countries with exception to Iraq and Sudan, and further banned travelers from North Korea and Chad along with certain Venezuelan officials. Despite liberal lower courts partially blocking the new restrictions, the Supreme Court allowed the September version to go into full effect on December 4, 2017, and ultimately upheld the travel ban in a June 2019 ruling. When U.S. troop numbers in Afghanistan increased from 8,500 in January 2017 to 14,000 a year later, Trump was criticized for reversing his pre-election position critical of further involvement in Afghanistan. But these civilian-minded media critics did not understand that he increased troop strength to ensure that the U.S. had the muscle to effect a smooth transition until the evacuation areas were secured, preparing to evacuate military equipment, all Americans, foreign nationals, and qualified Afghans. Trump ordered the cruise missile strikes in April 2017 and in April 2018 against the Assad regime in Syria in retaliation for the Khan Sheikhoun and Douma chemical attacks, as he was also destroying the ISIS caliphate in the region. Russian soldiers were also killed, believed to be members of the Wagner Group. In May 2018, Trump withdrew the United States from the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, agreement between Iran, the U.S., and 5 other countries that lifted most economic sanctions against Iran in return for Iran agreeing to restrictions on its nuclear program. And as expected, liberal analysts determined that, after the United States' withdrawal, Iran moved closer to developing a nuclear weapon. But in fact, Iran had violated the agreement and had never slowed down, let alone stopped its enrichment of uranium to develop nuclear weapons. The Iranians also violated the agreement on numerous occasions under the Obama administration, restricting locations that could be inspected. Trump then reimposed the oil embargo on their exports, and Iran was almost bankrupt by the end of his administration. Trump also did something many previous presidents promised to do but never did. On May 14, 2018, he recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moved the embassy there, and he supported Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. This brought expected opposition from the United Nations General Assembly, the European Union, and the Arab League, all of which are hypocritical and worthless organizations. They must have forgotten that Israel won that territory in the Six-Day War of 1967 after defeating superior Syrian forces. It is now a natural buffer zone between the two countries. In December 2018, Trump ordered the withdrawal of most of the military personnel from Syria. 1 week later, Trump said he would not approve any extension of the American deployment in Syria. The UN had been critical of U.S. forces in the area in general, and General Mattis resigned in protest, considering the action to be an abandonment of the U.S.'s Kurdish allies who played a key role in fighting ISIS. However, the UN failed to take control of the situation afterward. In October 2019, Trump spoke with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and most U.S. forces had been withdrawn from northern Syria. Then, Turkey violated international law and invaded northern Syria, attacking and displacing American allied Kurds in the area. However, that should have been a United Nations operation, given their great concerns over U.S. forces being in the area. Later that month, the U.S. House of Representatives, in a rare bipartisan vote of 354 to 60, condemned Trump's withdrawal of U.S. troops from Syria for abandoning U.S. allies, undermining the struggle against ISIS, and spurring a humanitarian catastrophe. ISIS was effectively broken by that point anyway, and the mainstream media that condemned Trump for the attacks against ISIS then attacked him for pulling out troops who had been removing ISIS. Go figure. Trump also supported the Saudi government's actions in Yemen against the Iranian-supported Houthi terrorists, who also attacked Saudi Arabia, and in 2017, he signed a $110 billion agreement to sell arms to Saudi Arabia. In 2018, the U.S. provided limited intelligence and logistical support for the intervention. After 2019 Iranian-backed Houthi attacks on Saudi oil facilities, Trump approved sending 3,000 additional U.S. troops, including fighter squadrons, 2 Patriot batteries, and a terminal high-altitude area defense system to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. On January 1, 2020, Trump ordered the airstrike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in Iraq, who had been planning the majority of Iranian terrorist-supported operations for decades, as well as targeting coalition troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Then, Trump threatened to hit 52 Iranian sites if Iran retaliated. When on January 8th, Iran retaliated with ballistic missile strikes against 2 U.S. air bases in Iraq, leveling the bases. Trump responded with cruise missile attacks and reintroduced harsh U.S. sanctions on their oil, metals, and other exports. Also on January 8th, Iran shot down Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 after takeoff from Tehran Airport. In August 2020, Trump was unable to get additional UN sanctions against Iran. In February 2020, the Trump administration negotiated an agreement with the Taliban, which called for the withdrawal of all foreign troops, coalition forces in 14 months, contingent on a guarantee from the Taliban that Afghan soil will not be used by terrorists with aims to attack the United States or its allies or its forces, and for the release of 5,000 Taliban imprisoned by the Afghan government. By the end of Trump's term, 5,000 Taliban had been released, and despite the Taliban continuing attacks on Afghan forces and integrating al-Qaeda members into its leadership, U.S. troops were not touched for the last 18 months of his administration, and that force was reduced to 2,500. But for the last 18 months of his presidency, the impact was felt, and soldiers were safe. In July 2020, in response to international concerns, the Trump administration imposed sanctions and visa restrictions against senior Chinese officials in response to their expanded mass slave labor camps, holding more than 1 million of the country's Uyghur Muslim ethnic minority. See our video on that issue and the corporations benefiting from slave labor. He also highly restricted Chinese student entry into the U.S. and the actions of the Confucius Institute due to the ongoing theft of technology and intellectual property, as well as Chinese Communist Party espionage rings setting up in major U.S. cities. But back in December 2019, when the COVID-19 escaped the Dr. Anthony Fauci operated and funded Wuhan laboratory in China, the SARS-CoV-2 virus spread worldwide within weeks, and the first confirmed U.S. case was reported on January 20th, 2020. The White House Coronavirus Task Force was formed on January 29th, 2020. The media had a field day and started their disinformation campaign. Beginning in mid-March, Trump held a daily task force press conference, joined by medical experts and other administration officials, sometimes disagreeing with them by promoting unproven treatments, quoted the liberal press. In fact, Trump supported the already proven, available, and inexpensive treatments, such as a 5-day course of ivermectin, which was found to be safe and effective in treating adult patients with mild COVID-19. But the media, at the behest of the drug companies who had Fauci in their pocket, called it horse dewormer and unsafe for humans, despite its decades' use in treating tropical and exotic diseases. Liberal social media shut down any dissent. The media criticized Trump's public statements on COVID-19, saying they were at odds with his private statements. In February 2020, Trump publicly asserted that the outbreak in the U.S. was less deadly than influenza, was much under control, and would soon be over, taking advice from Dr. Anthony Fauci, the WHO, and the CDC. At the same time, he voiced his personal concerns in a private conversation with Bob Woodward. In March 2020, Trump privately told Woodward that he was playing it down in public so as to not create panic. He also mistakenly yet understandably followed the advice of the so-called experts like the now discredited Dr. Fauci, CDC, and WHO. As reported, on March 6, Trump signed the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act into law, which provided $8.3 billion in emergency funding for federal agencies. On March 11th, the World Health Organization recognized the spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic, and Trump announced partial travel restrictions for most of Europe effective on March 13th. On April 22nd, Trump signed an executive order restricting some forms of immigration to the United States to restrict the spread. Trump then established the Remain in Mexico policy. Also, Trump never shut down the nation. He allowed governors to make that call, and those that did not totally shut down, such as Florida and South Dakota, did not suffer the long-term consequences of job losses, educational debilitation, and economic hardship. Trump was also ridiculed for his repeated use of the terms Chinese virus and China virus and Wuhan flu. to describe COVID-19, which drew criticism from health experts. Ironically, none of these experts balked at the use of the terms Spanish flu, Legionnaire's disease, or German measles. He withdrew funding and participation from the WHO, and it was well known that China paid the WHO and its director, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, upwards of $86 million, almost 3 times their previous contributions, as a bribe to keep the Wuhan clinic and China off the radar for liability purposes. Trump did try and offer some relief with his Operation Warp Speed to try and get a viable vaccine out to the public, which we now know is an ineffective serum and sometimes deadly, as it does not prevent the disease at all. We will go into greater depth on this when we do our show on Dr. Anthony Fauci, so stand by for that one. According to the liberal media, Trump alleged, without evidence, that FDA scientists were part of a deep state opposing him and delaying approval of vaccines and treatments to hurt him politically. In reality, Trump was correct, as the medical profession was strong-armed into following the Fauci, CDC, and WHO mandates supported by China, or faced censure or losing their licenses if they did not play the game and enrich the big pharmaceutical companies with their unreliable and dangerous vaccines. Opposing voices from medical professionals who were not in the pocket of Big Pharma and knew better, or were not on Fauci's team, were silenced on woke social media platforms. On October 2, 2020, Trump tested positive for COVID-19, as did his wife, their son Barron, and numerous staff members and visitors who became infected. Trump was hospitalized at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center and was treated with antiviral drug, possibly including ivermectin and a steroid. Despite the warped, biased, and unreliable mainstream liberal media, when Trump refused to concede defeat after losing the 2020 presidential election to Joe Biden, he wanted a ballot recount by the states in question. That is a constitutional right. Hillary Clinton did it. Al Gore did it. We will cover this and other issues in our show on the 2020 election. Trump is the only American president to have been impeached twice. After he inquired as to the Ukrainian investigation of the Bidens in 2019 and about the $1 billion bribe Biden made to get the prosecutor, Victor Shokin, fired to remove him from the investigation into Burisma and Hunter Biden's participation, he was impeached by Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi in violation of constitutional protocol for not having an inquiry first, but rather going straight into the impeachment by the House of Representatives. He was charged with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, although the evidence, even suppressed by the ridiculous January 6 committees, proved otherwise. The charges were ludicrous. The process was illegal, and Trump's position, as we now know, were well-founded, as we will see in our Part 4 on Joe Biden, as well as the shows on the 2020 election and the show on January 6th. Trump was acquitted by the Senate in February 2020. The House impeached him again in January 2021 for incitement and insurrection, and the Senate again acquitted him in February. More on that when we do the show on January 6th. In Trump Part 3, we will cover all the positive gains that Trump, while far from a perfect person and an unskilled politician, made for the U.S. and the world, as well as highlighting all the promises he kept after entering office.
What's up? Everybody, like, why you not saying anything like in other reaction videos? You're just sitting there, letting the video play, and you making gestures, but you ain't saying nothing. You ain't pausing. Because I believe if people should watch the video together, watch it with me. Nah, for real, usually I will do that, but where I work at right now, I'm trying to stay consistent even while I'm at work, okay? On the tow boats. So it's so loud out here when I put these headphones on. It amplifies the sound, so basically I just post and hoping and praying that people watching and people staying informed and subscribing and commenting, and we all find out this information together, just like we did back when COVID came out. Listen, if you're a subscriber, subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link is in my bio. If you follow me on Instagram, if you're not a follower, follow me. Also, if you want to, subscribe to me on Instagram as well. I believe in telling the truth. I believe in posting the truth. I believe in research. I believe in honesty. I believe that every person have the right to know God and know truth, and also go into a situation where they come to voting or anything that you're going to do. Full-fledged knowing the correct knowledge and understanding that you need to know in order to make a decision. They try to cover up a lot of things that the left is doing. I really wasn't a fan of voting because I always felt like people would put whoever they want in their office anyway. My thing is, when they started bashing Trump so much and covering up a lot of things that Democrats were doing, I wanted to research, and I found people that in the community that I can text and talk with, and also figure out sources. And as I figure out sources, I begin to read. And with prayer, things get revealed. Okay, this is my thing. If you really want America to have a fair chance, I'll put it like this: if you want America to vote, why don't you put out all of the dirt, every bit of it? What Biden did, what Kamala did, what all these people did, at the same time Trump and everybody else. That way, if people go to the polls and vote, they can have a clear-cut understanding. This is why I'm voting. If the good outweigh the bad with either candidate, then that's what you do. You vote. But don't get on here bashing Trump and talking about Trump because he said some things that you didn't like, or he said it in a way that you didn't like it, and at the same time overlook the crimes that the other ones committed. You're a hypocrite. I'm a post about all of them, and I really don't care. But I know who I'm voting for. But so far, what they tried to cover up and what they did say came out to be a lie. Came out to be a lie. So you want to vote for somebody who's going to lie to you in your face? Talk down at you and tell you racist because you support Trump. Tell you that they all about love and togetherness, but the moment Trump says something they don't like, they want to send somebody to try to take them out, or turn blacks against each other because you voting against somebody that they feel like is racist. Come on now, where's the evidence? Anyway, y'all stay tuned. I will be doing a video on January 6th, reacting to the same person. I will do the video on the 2020 elections, reaction to the same person. I will also do the video on Biden and Obama and the rest of them. Just reaction videos. All I'm asking you when you visit my channel, just sit and watch and enjoy. Comment below. Let's have a conversation in the comments. Until I get off of this vote, I ain't got long. Then I will be able to communicate better as far as pausing and talking and giving my insights or going live and you guys join and you speak with me and talk to me. Okay, follow me on Instagram. And on my YouTube video, the description to all of the links to all of my social media will be in my description. So follow me there and share these videos with people who's uninformed. Share these videos with people who are Trump supporters, but they don't necessarily know enough. Share it also with people who are Democrats, but they believe in the lies that the media put out, right? Send it to them so they will have a clear understanding. They may disagree with you. They may debate you and say, well, what about this and what about that? At least they got an understanding on why they're voting and who they're voting for. Okay? So, with that being said, go do that. Follow me, share, subscribe, like, comment. Hey, help me grow. And help me grow, and we're going to grow together. Peace.